podcast powered by Revenue Reimagined. Today's guest is Luigi La Corte, co-founder and CEO of Provision, which is a Y Combinator-backed startup using AI to uncover risks hidden in construction documents. His path started in civil engineering, where he worked on major subway project with Arup and later managed multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects at Plenary Group. Now he's bridging the gap. See what I did there, y'all? Between construction and technology, helping contractors save time, avoid costly mistakes, and rethink how projects are delivered. This is going to be a conversation about risk, trust, and the future of building. Luigi, thanks for joining the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you both.
Awesome to see you, Luigi. So we've been working for a little while together, but actually I've never asked you this question, and I'm super interested. So from engineering to entrepreneurship, you spent years in the trenches, infrastructure projects. What was the moment you realized the industry just needs some kind of different solution?
It was really just broken, and people were suing each other left, right, and center. And I originally just thought it was a fixture of the industry until you see the most sophisticated contractors being dragged through court because of the smallest kind of idiotic issue. You don't necessarily see this elsewhere. And so I thought there was an issue, and it turns out that there are, which we can unpack. But it was really a love for the industry coupled with this deep desire to go add value to customers' lives, which made me quit. I ultimately thought it was going to be a lot better for me long term if I just go and try to add value for people and solve some of these hairy problems. And we're making some progress.
And so you went from stable corporate to a YC startup founder. Like, why go through YC?
Crazy.
Why jump into that side? Like, talk to us a little bit about your YC journey.
YC was an amazing option for founders who haven't been through entrepreneurship before. We came across YC because the Airbnb story is famous. Airbnb got into YC, begged, borrowed, steal to get their seed check, and was incredibly scrappy. Coined the term ramen profitability. That really was something that I was thinking about when I wanted to start a startup. I didn't really have a framework for starting a business apart from go add some value and make money. When me and my team had gotten together, we had gotten to a few other accelerators. We'd gotten to YC the first time. And we were really debating, should we do this? We already had a paying customer at the time. And at the time, in retrospect, things seemed so easy. Like we got a paying customer really easy.
You're like, that was easy.
Really easy.
Product market fit.
Exactly. Yeah. I remember when we had gotten our first customer, they'd call me maybe a week into the implementation and said, Luigi, we'd like to discuss a way to give you $200 additional $1,000 in product for this product. I looked at my co-founders. I'm like, guys, what is everyone complaining about? The startup thing.
This is easy.
So simple. And then when we got into YC, maybe we were a little bit hot-headed about it, but we're like, maybe we shouldn't do it. I think things are going pretty good. And my co-founder, Brennan, said, we should give this a real shot. Let's talk to some people who've gone through YC and see the value add. Ultimately, what swayed us, the group partners, our group partner is Gustav, and he worked at Airbnb. The amount of pattern matching these people have seen, it's just so powerful. You can almost say anything and say, hey, we're having a hard time deciding which product feature to build. And they've seen it so many times, they could diagnose it almost instantly and give you the right path. Now, whether you want to listen is completely up to you. But we learned this through people who've gone through YC, and we thought it would be too hard to ignore. Plus, because a lot of us weren't based in SF, we thought it'd be the best entrance into that network. And it ended up being true. It was substantially easier to raise. And some of the people we have on the cap table now are just phenomenal because of YC.
I love that. And I love what you just said about whether you choose to listen or not is up to you. We have this conversation with clients all the time, right? Like if you're going to seek out the experts, be it YC, be it Revenue Reimagined, be it an executive coach, whatever it happens to be,
right.
Like you have to recognize you did that for a reason. So I love that you realize that. When you look at the problem you're solving, how early was it, and what was like the catalyst? And maybe it was just seeing people suing each other that made you confident. Like this isn't just a one-off problem, but this is like a problem big enough to build a company around, to go try to get investors.
It's a great question. There's so many individual moments that I think in aggregate give me validation that it's an attractive market. some of those moments, for example, are industry reports. Crux Insights, it's a report that's put out annually that talks about the reasons that disputes happen, for example. Disputes are, basically legal arguments or legal issues within constructions that certain parties face. And they talk about the underlying reasons. They typically have top three, failing to understand your contractual obligations, errors and omissions within their documents, things like this. And so I can look at that top-down number and say, okay, it's $500 billion is being spent on issues. That's a big number. And who's that going to? It's going to lawyers. It's coming out of contractors' pockets. That's one moment, though, because the more you understand, the more you realize that, that's not necessarily your TAM. That's one moment. Second moment's more bottom up, where I'm talking to a contractor and they've just agreed to, I think, a $10 million project, but they didn't understand that we had a 5% holdback. We could hold back 5% of the total project value while maintenance issues arise over the next 2 years. And now they're freaking out about cash flow. So like bottom up, I can see, okay, they literally just agreed to do this project. They bonded this project. They don't know that's an obligation. It was very clear. I wrote the contract. Top down, apparently there's a lot of money being spent on disputes. That helped me understand that, okay, there's probably some truth here. And then once you decided to start a business, because again, you only know these two ways, either anecdotally or through data, then you can fill in the gap through conversations. And then you end up building, you can interpolate based on the amount of other times someone agrees or nods or says, oh my God, yeah, that's so challenging, or oh, we lost money that way. So really I've developed my understanding of the market over years. So it wasn't a singular moment, but there are a lot of individual moments.
It's funny when you talk about the holdback. Like I'm obviously not in construction, but I could imagine not recognizing that and building your cash flow minus, not considering a 5% holdback could be pretty devastating to an organization.
Yeah, and it's common. I mean, people don't read these documents for the most part. They try to,
and they're huge, right? They're like
huge.
Humongous.
Contractors they have so much information being thrown at them, and like why construction is kind of crazy. Sometimes I honestly feel like it's a miracle that it happens for so many reasons, right? But like these projects are so large in scale, you almost have to think of it as building a manufacturing plant from the ground up every single time, right? Nothing is really recycled apart from the processes. Everything else is done fresh from scratch. Like the formwork, concrete structures, they're just built with wood first. There's now more advanced formwork, but as an example, and contractors are always looking at more projects than they can actually pursue. So, imagine if I said to you, Adam, I'm going to throw 100 projects at you. You're probably going to win 8 of them. But for the other 92, I need you to know those projects inside and out. You're hard pressed. You're also, you're going to lose the majority of them. And if you do win them, well, you might as well, you better hope that you've captured all the correct scope. And oh, by the way, the scope is not only mentioned within, 1,000-page spec and drawing, but it's also made via reference to all the building codes and all these specialty codes that you have to keep in mind and be aware of.
Sounds like Adam's close rate.
I mean, my close rate is high, but what it reminds me of, so I recently started doing some real estate investing on the side. Thank you. We're doing our first flip now, but to get a deal, having to run the numbers and analyze everything and then, get the contractor to come in and scope it. And like, I see my scope on a single family home is like this, multiply that by 10 million times for the giant building. We're going to
exactly.
Holy moly. Yeah, it's craziness. And it is, I agree with you. It's amazing anything gets built.
It's honestly amazing. It's a miracle. And I think the industry deserves a lot. These people really are passionate about building and providing for their customers. And it's really a shame that they spend a lot of time in legal disputes, which was, again, somewhat the impetus for starting Provision.
So let's talk about Provision for a minute. So contractors spend too much time reviewing documents. They still miss risk. There's legal disputes. How exactly, at a high level, does Provision fix that?
We try and surface...
Plug.
Yep. If you want to buy Provision, you can go to our website, useprovision.com. You can contact me, call my phone number. So we know that there are a lot of things that can cause fights, right? There's almost an infinite amount of things that can cause fights between two parties. But in construction, the 80-20 rule is such that you could define probably 20 to 40 things that are likely to result in a fight. And so we surface those things. We surface them in various types of documents. So we'll surface them in a contract. And so we'll say, hey, you just uploaded this document. I just wanted to let you know, you are required to indemnify the owner, but the owner is not required to indemnify you. No mutual indemnification. And so if something happens, they are not required to hold you harmless. They're not going to come to your side. And you might want to push back on that, right? That's a common issue. And so we'll identify that. But that's just the contract, right? And what we found that actually differs from our original hypothesis is that the contract is not, it's not the overwhelming source of fights, depending on how you look at the contract, right? So the contract itself is a 40-page document that has all the legalese. That is the contract. But the contract is also everything that's made that is referenced in that document. So it could be the drawings, the specifications, any reports. If you look at it holistically, it's always the contract that causes fights, but not that upfront version. It's actually some of the more technical documentation, like the drawings and specifications. So now we do that too, and say, hey, in this drawing, we found this issue. Or hey, in the specification, and its conflict with the drawing is going to cause this issue, so you should be aware. So we want to surface those issues quickly and almost emulate what an estimator does very quickly, very accurately. So you don't need to get to the end of the job and realize I've actually lost all my profit because we've made a mistake.
And in the industry, oh, good.
Go ahead. I could tell by what you started. You're going to go where I'm going to go, but I'm going to let you take my thunder. Go ahead.
I was just going to, well, yeah, we'll see about that. In an industry that's so slow to change, what broke through the skepticism? Like, you got your first client super quickly, even before you got into YC. That you obviously hit a nerve. How'd you break through that skepticism?
There was a lot of early skepticism. I remember contractors, pre-ChatGPT basically saying, I don't trust computers, let alone AI. It's a black box to me, right? Machine learning, those are two words. I don't know what it means. There was a lot of skepticism around whether it could even be done. Mm-hmm. ChatGPT was a watershed moment, and it gave people comfortability around a probabilistic type output product where I can't always guarantee the quality of my response, but it still saves me a lot of time. And that gave our customer base a lot of comfort. And we could say, it's like ChatGPT for X. Just like you use ChatGPT, you got to double check the sources, but this is going to bring you a lot further along. And then we ended up really indexing on accuracy and showing our customer base, hey, for this document, we'll get there really, really accurately. Or for this custom list of requirements, we'll get there very, very accurately. That's how we started to break through some of the concerns around accuracy, not just, oh, this is an AI-based product. So originally ChatGPT, and then it was a strategic decision to really go all in on how do we make the most accurate product, irrespective of the documents uploaded.
And just to follow up on that, that's probably a challenge for you now too. Like ChatGPT
comparisons?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. ChatGPT is obviously one of the most phenomenal products of all time. And some people look at ChatGPT and say, okay, well, I can get 70% of the way there with ChatGPT. So maybe I actually don't need your product. Right. And that is true if you're only expecting 70% of the results. If you only need contract review.
And I agree with you, 70% of the results, and if you don't care about checking the accuracy.
If accuracy doesn't matter, that's true.
Right.
And for some
in
people,
contracts, shouldn't accuracy matter more than anything?
Yes, it does. It does matter, but at the same time, these people aren't necessarily hiring lawyers, right? And so if you're not hiring lawyers, you actually feel more comfortable with 70% because I already don't. Contract risk is not my number one concern. It's not my.
I usually just sign it, so at least it's better than what I'm doing, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And until it bites you in the butt, and then you're upset, and you never want that to happen again. And then you should work with us. But for some people, they already don't work with lawyers. They're already too expensive, or the situation just doesn't warrant it, right? If they have high repeat work, I mean, Adam, you and I, or me, you and Dale, we worked together once. I reviewed that contract. It's heavily criticized. We redline it. On the next engagement, I'm just going to take that template and we're not going to review it again. And that happens all the time in construction. It's called repeat work. Yeah. It's one of the issues that we identify when we're cold calling a customer. If you have high repeat work, based on the contract itself will not be an issue, but the design documents could be, and
Sure.
that's where we're focusing a lot more.
I think that's a great call out. The contract might not be the issue, although you should still double check to make sure someone didn't change the terms. I think in our world, little different. In big corporate world, I tend to have less trust for people not doing that. But in your space, so I sold into restaurants for a while, right? A notoriously non-tech space. Construction, notoriously low-tech, non-tech space. How hard is it to get contractors to trust AI?
There is a perception that it's hard. That is changing.
I love it.
ChatGPT has really changed the perception of the contractor. It's in a way taught them how to buy, because they know what that experience is like. They know they can get to the aha moment of a one-shot AI LLM product very quickly. Upload a document, give me a schedule. They can see it. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. And so you can approach them and say, hey, I know you've experienced this limitation in this respect, either with getting a good schedule or getting ideas for value engineering. This is actually where we've focused, and I can get you a much better product. Now the comparison's a lot easier. So that's really what's changed the game. And then obviously, I don't come from a sales background. When I came across Dale and I met him at the AWS sales workshop, obviously Dale was transformational, and Revenue Reimagined was very, very helpful in helping get a sales.
Please don't say Dale was transformational. He's gonna take that snippet and put it on repeat everywhere we go, Luigi.
Deservedly so. When Dale found
break
me,
my heart.
Shell of a man, sales wise. I mean sincerely, Dale was very helpful in identifying issues and helping us break through some of the common sales objections. And so that was also very helpful.
I'm just going to put it on loop when he goes to sleep. So then it'll just be like subconsciously.
I mean, it'll put me right to sleep. People buy from people. That's why companies who invest in meaningful connections win. The best part? Gifting doesn't have to be expensive to drive results, just thoughtful. Sendoso's intelligent gifting platform is designed to boost personalized engagement throughout the entire sales process. Trust me, I led sales for a Sendoso competitor, and I could tell you, no one does gifting better than Sendoso. If you're looking for a proven way to win and retain more customers, visit sendoso.com.
Luigi, so YC gave you a good playbook for SaaS, and you talked a little bit about how you connected with your with Uber and how that worked out. But how is construction isn't really SaaS? Like, as you're starting to adopt the value proposition with your product, like how did you kind of bring the two together? Because once again, you have that demographic in the space that doesn't really understand SaaS. They don't understand AI. Now, this is probably before ChatGPT. So as you rewind a little bit.
I think they do understand SaaS. I mean, given the life cycle of the project where we work, where we're selling into pre-construction, we're not typically selling on a per project basis. If you're selling operational tools, you are typically selling on a per project basis, just the way budgets are built. They have a technology budget for this project. You can sell on a per project basis a lot easier. If you can evangelize some of the people there, you can get an enterprise deal. We took the approach of, hey, the risks they really ought to be identified in pre-con, not once you execute the contract. You can't influence it at that point. So let's just sell into pre-con. You're competing against predefined budgets, usually around estimating, or you're trying to build a business case so they can unlock some budget. And I mean, from that perspective, they understand SaaS because they've been purchasing estimating tools, which are SaaS based, and they've been doing that for like 2 decades. Now they're not usually very cloud based, and some companies like Edify are starting to do that. But I think they do understand SaaS, and I think they're actually pretty sophisticated buyers because when you get to the high enough level, like they all want to work through the same things. Give me customer testimonials. What's the ROI? How do I know if this is not working? Give me a pilot. It feels like it would be the same purchasing process in manufacturing, though I have limited experience. It's probably not the same as like selling security software, but they're still pretty advanced.
And I want to rewind a little bit to, like, you're not a salesperson. What I've experienced when we work together is actually you've always been the best salesperson as you're growing the company. And this is one place where I think so many founders get it wrong, is that
Yes.
they try to figure out, like, I can sell this little piece, but then I got to give it away right away. Like, I gotta offload that part of my job. And through our work together, I know that's not you. And actually, you sit in on the sales meetings, you have conversations with your sales team, you're taking on sales opportunities, even though you're working on product and working on financing, but you've always stayed in the sales cycle, and you've always been included in, like, the biggest deals in the company. So I think from a lesson standpoint for people listening, like, you got to stay in the sales cycle. And even you didn't believe you were a salesperson, but you hit $1 million in ARR before you started bringing on salespeople. So, like, that dichotomy is very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I love about sales is that you are true. Once you're authentic about it, you are truly trying to help the other person accomplish something. And I really do believe in our product. So in that way, it's really just been, a conversation like you'd have with a family member or a friend, and just advising them on what you think they ought to do based on the information that you know. Sales is a lot more formulaic than that once you go to team building, and I think that's part of what I needed to uncover. And also the framework for selling, I think, at scale and repeatedly is also something I need to uncover. But yeah, like, I think leading with empathy and leading with authenticity is very important. And
plus, you knew the problem. You lived the problem.
I knew the problem.
Like, you're like,
But
I know
that's
how
what
powerful it is.
that's why founders, and every founder that I've ever met who doesn't come from a traditional sales background says something very similar to what you just said, Luigi. Like, I'm not a salesperson, right? And every founder that says that is typically the best salesperson the company's ever seen. And it's because of exactly what you guys are saying. You deeply understand the problem, number one, and you deeply, more so than anyone is ever going to, believe in your product, hence why you started a company. So people can relate to that, and you come off and you are so passionate about it that it's hard for someone to not buy from you. That passion is contagious. And because you're not a salesperson and you're just talking to them like a friend or a family member, it makes it so much easier to close the deal, because no one wants to buy from someone with commission breath. What they want to buy is from someone who deeply understands and, like, listen, like, I've been there. I want to help you so that you don't, have XYZ bad outcome. And that's what we try so hard to get out of your head, down onto paper, and to replicate to sales rep and sales rep and sales leader. Because arguably, even 5 years from now, you could have all the sales process in place, put you and a sales rep on the phone with a client, you're going to outsell them any day of the week. And that's how it always should be.
I think we've done a good job at downloading that to the team. I think it's so much harder for them if they don't come into a conversation with these anecdotes, with that ability to relate based on things that you've seen in the past. It's a lot harder, right?
Yeah.
But this is why we also tell the team, become very familiar with the product, become very familiar with the tool, become very familiar with the problem. We do empathy building exercises where we say, take these contracts and answer these questions and see what it's like to be a contractor, so you can relate to them. Because I really do believe now that I can make up for my lack of sales training with just a really intimate understanding of the problem and the product. And I think that carries. I think Jason Lemkin really advocates for those two things, because it cuts across, right? Like, you can have the best frameworks and no spiced in and out, and that's really good for advancing certain deals. But ultimately, you have to be able to tell the customer, I know what you're going through. This is specifically how it's going to help you, and all these features are also going to complement your process. The thing that's really been helpful. I mean, if I were to start a career in sales, I probably would just only do research on the current problem and just talk to our customers about that.
I love it. I love that. Luigi, what's been your biggest surprise in, like, early sales cycles? So, you are not a seller, but you are a seller. Like, what shocked you about the sales process as you were building?
There's two things. One, the transition between optimist and pessimist. This is actually, I'm not answering your question correctly, so I'm going to talk about the later of part of the sales cycle.
You could go that route. Dale will tell you I'm a pessimist.
I love being an optimist during the sales cycle. the whole process is, I think, inherently optimistic. You're telling them about solving a problem and helping them alleviate some pain. And then once you get into contract review with them, it becomes very pessimistic, and you're talking about preventing each other from hurting each other in very bad ways. And so that was kind of a surprising transition. And when we work with our customers, especially the larger ones, and I tell them about how transformational this is going to be, and then we talk about what our limit of liability should be for something else. That's a bit surprising. In the early stage, what's surprising is you have to be very systematic about how you organize your outbound, how you organize your top of funnel, so that you can triage issues quickly. And I'd wish we'd done this earlier, because you can really use your top of funnel as a bit of a bellwether for how the industry is reacting to your product offering. And if you don't have that infrastructure in place, it becomes very hard to do later.
That's great
You
insight.
could, it just takes a lot of work.
Yeah, that's great insight. You don't have the data.
You don't have the data, and you can use that data almost like a superpower, right? Oh, our connect rate has just dropped 50%. Okay, something's odd here. Maybe our numbers have been flagged. We can catch that really quickly if you have your eyes on the data. Oh, we're getting this objection more and more every single week. Something's wrong. Competition's coming in. Horizontal tools are proliferating. We're being evaluated against a higher standard. I mean, if you have your eyes on that data week by week, you can move so much faster than everyone else. You don't have to be on the phone. You can still scale. But now we look at that very frequently, because the kind of insights that you can get from your BDR team can really help influence strategy. And they have.
Yeah, definitely. And I could tell you're optimistic, but when you do some deal reviews, you become pessimistic. So it's really funny watching you flip-flop on the sales leadership side of what you do. So
yeah, you want to make sure that these deals aren't slipping and not, going poof and
I think
exist.
I think part of it is the team doesn't have as much experience as you do in the problem domain that you have. So you can actually provide a lot of insight. So when you hear something, like it's like when you hear it, it could be ting, and when they hear it, it's like thud. Or what they hear, it's like ting, and you hear like a thud, and it's like sounds right, but that's not really the way it works. So
you've had so many of these conversations that your pattern matching is kind of off the charts, right? I can hear a couple of things that people have said, and I can categorize it as like, this is not ideal now, right? And unfortunately, learn that the hard way. When you're a bright-eyed entrepreneur starting off, and you talk to someone, they say, "Oh, this could be interesting." You think, "This is amazing! Like, they love the product. This is gonna be a quick sell."
They said it's interesting. They're going to close next week.
Yeah, this looks cool. This looks cool. This could be interesting. Those are marks of death. You hear that, and you think, this completely
Luigi's learned this in only a few years. Like, salespeople go their whole lives and never learn this.
I can't believe that to be true. I can't believe that to be true.
I'm telling you.
I was coaching a seller 20 years worth of selling before this call. And like, when I tell you rosy eyes, like, oh, they said that this looks really great. And like, there could be an opportunity. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in like commit. What? It could be great. Okay. I mean, sure. I could win the lottery tomorrow. I mean,
I think the hardest part is balancing your deep optimism for how you want the world to work with a incredibly pessimistic view of what could kill you at any given time. And that is a tension that you have to navigate when you're running a business. As you both know, you both deeply believe in Revenue Reimagined, and it's going to be successful, but you're also incredibly pessimistic, and so you're looking for customers, or you're optimizing some part of the process. Else you would just be happy with current state, and you wouldn't be interested in growth. It depends on the business, obviously, but startups by definition are growth. You have to grow, and you have to grow fast. And if you're not growing, you're effectively dying. You're not interesting.
And I think the other side of that is, I think salespeople, a lot by definition, like, they want to hold on to what they have, because building pipeline is very hard and difficult. So like, the path of easiest return is, I got someone on a call, they said it's interesting, I'm piping an opportunity. It's like, they don't want to go back into the pick and shovel to find the next rock that they have to uncover.
Oh yeah.
So,
and I'm so excited for our team, because we are absolute dogs in generating pipeline. And I wish if I could go back, I would have spent a lot more money on marketing and building a brand. But for us to have gotten to our ARR with, effectively no marketing, I think is great. Once we turn that on and generate MQL consistently, it's going to be like a eureka type moment, because we are good at scratching and clawing and getting deals when we really shouldn't be. I mean, we offer a great product, best in class accuracy, bar none. We win against competition all the time. But once we get that predictable MQL coming in, I think everyone's going to be, ecstatic.
Yep. Well, and we've talked about this, and the sales team without a marketing, you're like, the sales team by definition, the BDRs and your sales team are doing marketing. They're doing the awareness in a very long tail situation. And so if they don't have anyone helping them, like if they're calling people and they're like, provision, like what's provision, versus like, oh yeah, I've seen provision in the marketplace, I understand. Like the education's kind of already done. Like you're paying your BDRs to be the educators versus a marketing team to be the educators.
Yeah, that's a good point.
100%. So much knowledge and parallels. I think that you don't think of construction as like a high tech industry, but it actually is, can be, and should be. As we, and I want to get there with we're going to shift into rapid fire, as we only have a few minutes left, and we're definitely going to touch on that. All right, so here's the rules. 20 words or less. I'm upping it from 10 because I feel like
Adam
10
likes
is
the
impossible.
rules. Adam's like,
I do like the rules.
I like rules too.
Right? Luigi, what's the hardest lesson you've learned as a founder?
You always have to plan for worst case scenario.
Very true.
A go-to-market belief from YC that you had to unlearn.
Ooh, let's get a little controversial, Dale.
I know this is supposed to be rapid fire, but it's really making me think. Don't provide free trials.
Interesting.
Oh, I would love to sit and unpack that. What is the biggest misconception about construction tech?
Unsophisticated buyers. They're very sophisticated. They spend money now, a lot of money on AI, and that's increasing.
I love that. Love that for you specifically.
Me too.
One piece of advice for engineers thinking about entrepreneurship.
Less risky than you think.
I will second that. I just posted about this today on LinkedIn. I feel more secure doing what I'm doing now than I ever did working for someone else. Let's be very, very clear.
Yeah, being able to generate revenue yourself puts you in a, quote unquote, like kind of indestructible category, right? It's really hard for you to lose a job if you are innately your job.
Yeah. Luigi, what's your favorite book, podcast, or resource other than the Bridge the Gap podcast? That's kind of reshaping your thinking right now.
Favorite podcast has to be Harry Stebbings' podcast, especially his interviews with sales leaders. They're always just so insightful. Favorite book has to be the second Elon Musk biography, not the Ashley Vance one, but the more recent one. Just incredible. Goes really deep into his management process, and he's actually like not an incredible business person, but is just so profound in his innovation that it doesn't even matter. And so being able, you
don't have to be good at business if you can see around the corners.
Exactly. Yeah, you can almost sacrifice your business skills. I'd say those two.
Okay, last one as we wrap up. Dream vacation destination with the twins.
Oh, somewhere all inclusive. I really loved going off the beaten path and traveling with my friends and doing 6-week excursions in Asia or South Africa, and I can't even imagine doing that now. I just would love to be able to have everything taken care of and relax with my wife, which we will be doing shortly. But yeah, probably Mexico.
I love that. Okay. I love the off the beaten path. I love the excursions. Dale gives me shit all the time, but like when I go on vacation, it's like a 3-week vacation. It's not in main city, USA. Definitely want to chat with you about some places you've been, because that is my dream. Those kind of trips.
Yeah, those Luigi, were incredible. And I'll tell you more about it when we chat.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for joining the show. Where can people learn about Provision? Where could they refer all of their friends in construction? Because everyone knows someone in construction.
Of course. You can go to useprovision.com, useprovision.com. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, where I post about the business, blog
Good
about
content.
it. Thank
Founder
you.
that develops content.
Yep. And those two places are the best channels.
Awesome. Luigi, thanks for joining the show, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Jens.